I cannot stand my boyfriend's mom, and I think she might be literally insane. My 31 female boyfriends, 30 mom, 60, is easily one of the worst people I've ever encountered in my entire life, and it is a miracle that her son, my boyfriend, has turned out to be such an incredible, kind, loving person. See, she has serious, blatant mental issues that aren't being treated, and I oscillate between feeling intense sadness for her and pure hatred. Some examples of her behavior just from this past year. She filed a restraining order against her own brother over a financial trust dispute. Her father died last year, and he was apparently very wealthy, and there was a big trust fund to fight over. I don't know what happened between her and her brother, but I watched her behavior at the hospital while her father died, and she was an awful witch. Her own mother, who has severe dementia, was beside herself. Every 30 minutes, she had to be reminded we were in the hospital with her husband of 50 years on his deathbed. My boyfriend's mother was seriously nasty to her, and even hospital staff noticed and tried to protect her. The trust should have gone to the widow, and her brother took it over to provide medical care slash living arrangements for her. She fought this tooth and nail, insisting on medical terms. She sued him for the money and lost. She remains extremely bitter about this. She is very jealous of my boyfriend's niece's grandmother, the other grandma, and badmouthed her to this 6-year-old child, saying things like, Grandma Mary is a bitch. Grandma Mary, by the way, is sweet, timid, and very quiet. Every Christmas, without fail, she blows up. We hosted her at our home last Christmas, and all seemed well until she found out we were going to Vegas the next week to celebrate my birthday. She stormed out and drove home. Then on Christmas Day, wrote an email stating, "You are no longer my children." Period. I said, "I have learned my lesson. I'm sure Mary will take you in," as that seems to be her MO. My boyfriend pulled up email records from the past 5 years, and there is always an email like this sent to the Tyra family Christmas. She lives 2 hours away, but had a dance event where we lived this past summer. We agreed to host her for a couple days, but when she informed us it would be nearly 5 full days and we had evening plans on some of them, we asked if she could stay at my boyfriend's brother's house. She told my boyfriend he was a horrible son, told him to fuck himself, and that she hated him. When she finally got to our house a couple days later, she ran into the house screaming and demanding he go get all her stuff out of the car. He was miserably sick, and when she found this out, she told him she ought to slap him up to the head for having her there. He debated telling her he was sick, but thought she would blow up. And either way, there was no winning. We were under the impression she would be at her event through the weekend, but instead she sat around our home complaining and being generally awful. We both had important work to do over the weekend that we could not do because she was there. As she offered to sweep and mop the floors, we didn't stop her because it gave her distraction. She later wrote an email stating, "I am trying to get out and meet people, but you all curtail any effort. I don't have any friends. My whole life has been condemned to the enslavement of others, whether I want to or not." The final straw was giving up the afternoon dance events to mop and clean for her. I would have paid her to leave that day. This is just a mild example of how her umbrella zooms and how she justifies her own behavior. One of her lifelong dreams was to drive the Pacific Coast Highway. My boyfriend tried to make that dream a reality for her last month. Together, they planned the cities to stop at, activities they wanted to do, the type of car they wanted to drive. They agreed about who would pay for what. I was invited on this trip and reluctantly agreed to go. We all discussed payment and agreed I would pay for my own food and activities while they would split car/hotel costs, since I didn't have a say in any of it and it was technically their trip. After the dance event incident, she wrote an email stating, "I am only going to Cali at this point," because I wrote this email to the entire family for some reason. We moved forward with the trip, aware of the potential risks. Things blew up way beyond what we ever had planned, though. We expected anger and childlike behavior from her. But the justification from my boyfriend is that if it would improve her happiness at levels even slightly, it was worth it. On the last day, she has a tendency to get very upset the day a trip ends. While discussing all things, she just were in the car and she started screaming about how awful we were at the top of her lungs. She screamed bloody murder at me for things I've never even said or thought. She brought up things from years ago that have since been distorted in her mind. And when my boyfriend said the screaming needed to stop, or we would have to just head to the airport early, our flight was about 8 hours from then in a 2-hour drive, she lost it even further. She called a 911 and insisted we were both holding her hostage and about to abandon her. We had to pull over in a fancy hotel parking lot, no less, and the cop came and questioned all of us. Within 5 minutes, they caught on to her mental issues and hysteria. They forced her to vacate the car and separate from us. She got hysterical again, begging to not have to leave and that she would just shut up. When they said it was a bad idea to stay together, she asked for the police report number so she could file a restraining order against my boyfriend, Herschel. He gave her money for a car and food for the day and drove away to his joint. So, why am I writing all this? Partially to vent, partially because I feel like I am going crazy. My boyfriend said I need to just separate myself from her alternate reality and not. The thing is, there's always a summer blow up like this. And then about a month before Christmas, she writes an email that says, "So when do you want to celebrate Christmas and whose place am I staying?" It just cannot happen again this year. I don't want her in my life, and I especially don't want her ruining my favorite time of year for the third year in a row. Am I being overly sensitive? Should I just put up with her behavior? How do we move forward in a healthy way? Update. It's been about a month since I last posted, and there have been a few small developments. The most notable thing is that my boyfriend and I, along with his family, have had several serious conversations about how to move forward. But first, some more information on how his mother has been behaving over the last month. She went on a spree of verbally attacking me, both via text to me and via text to his family members. She threatened to sabotage our recent trip to my hometown to see my family, which I'd been looking forward to for months as we hadn't all been together in 3 years. She also made lots of petty comments and insults about me, not limited to a lack of talent. I'm in a creative. But basically, she's super pissed with her current station in life, and I'm the privileged individual who gets the blame. And she also contacted my boyfriend's brother to let him know she was writing his 7-year-old daughter out of her will and taking away her college fund. And this has been done about 2 dozen times because time with me and enjoy versus not being happy when spending time. I have blocked her from every social media platform, email, and phone/text. Boyfriend's brother has taken a placating approach by simply responding with okay whenever she texts versus engaging. Outside of the verbal aggression, she has backed off. She used to call my boyfriend at a frequency of several times a week, which he admits was a cumbersome, exhausting burden because he felt obligated to listen to her 30-minute angry diatribes about whatever drama was happening in her world. She hasn't called him in 2 months, and it has been glorious. Regarding the upcoming holidays, we sat down with his other family members here and decided how to move forward. We are all in agreement that we will not spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with his mother. We've made plans to travel out of town for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we're very much looking forward to the mini excursions. At this point, his mother would have likely contacted us about Thanksgiving plans, but in her anger, since the PCH fiasco, I am not sure if she will reach out about Christmas, but if she does, then we will relay our current plans and take it as we go. In addition to family-wide conversations about holidays, we have touched extensively about his mother's mental health and the best ways to move forward. In my state, there is a law that allows you to file a court-ordered mental health evaluation, and it only takes one person to file the application. That is not an option we have ruled out, especially since she is clearly hurting and mentally unwell and could benefit greatly from it. It is my understanding that one has been filed for her previously and that the court found mental disorder, but that she has ceased taking medication. If it were up to me, I would have filed the application yesterday, especially since she meant wanting to kill herself in her last angry bout. Ultimately, though, I don't want to sidestep my boyfriend. In the end, as a family, we have agreed that our lives are better when she is not in it, and that ultimately she is happier too, since everything we do, even planning a lifelong dream trip for her, causes her great distress in the end. We'll just have to take this one day at a time, but things have been calmer generally, and I am looking forward to the holidays instead of feeling anxious about them for the first time in a time. Am I the a-hole? Parents bought younger sister with serious issues a $25K car for Christmas, while all I got was a phone case. Been needing a car for a couple years. Parents promised one, but gave her one instead. In my family, there are 2 kids, my sister and I, and my parents. So Christmas is coming up, and I've been wanting a car for about a year now because I've recently gotten my green peas. My parents have mentioned in the past the idea of me paying for half, and they'll cover the other half of a car on a total 10K Australian. I can afford this as I've saved most of my money from the 2 jobs I've kept since I was 14, so no biggie. I've also been relying on my mom to drive me to work for the last 4 years, so it was a smart move on their end rather than driving me to 30 minutes each way, each shift I've got. My sister has just turned 17, which is when you can get your red peas in Australia, and she's never had a job and has no money saved whatsoever. I love her a lot, but she's made some questionable decisions toward her future lately, but that's a separate story. My parents haven't seemed to care as much as they probably should have about these things and are acting like everything's normal. And with Christmas coming up at the time and my birthday in early January, I thought this might be the time my parents get me that car I've wanted for the last year. As they've mentioned this idea for the last couple months, I'm obviously excited the week leading up to Christmas, wondering what type of car they've bought or what we're looking at. I woke up on Christmas Day around 10 a.m. to the sound of my younger sister crying, but in a happy way. I'm excited for her as she's obviously gotten something she's wanted. I walk downstairs and no one is the Christmas tree or present with my name is sitting there. I figure I'll come back to it. And after I find my parent, check the front door and is wide open, walk out to the drive my way to see a brand new blue Honey i30 sitting in the drive with a big ribbon on the front. My sister's at the side of it crying with my parents' arms about her. I ask what it's for, and my parents told me, girl, I probably could have handled this better, but I'm going to storm back to the house, close my door, and stay in there for the rest of the time. I didn't go with my family to see everyone else for Christmas because of how annoyed I was. My parents asked me why I did that when they got home, so I asked them why they bought her a car before me who's older, willing to pay half, had a job, goes to school, and has a stable plan for the future. They don't have an answer to that one, so they just stay quiet, and after a couple of minutes of awkward silence, they walk. By this point, I forgot about the present they left under the tree downstairs, so I walked down to open it, and it's a new phone case from eBay, something I had no use for. I can't get over what they've done. Update. I've had a long and deep chat with my parents. I've told them exactly how I feel and what reminded them about what they promised. They sounded apologetic, and I think maybe they're starting to understand my point of view a bit more. They said they didn't want to ruin anything, but to wait until my birthday and see what happened. However, I feel like this wasn't their intention all along, and they only said that to get me back on their side. I'll wait and see how it all turns out, but only time can tell. Thanks for all the comments and upvotes. I'm trying my best to reply to as many as possible, but it's going to take some time. I hope everyone has a great holiday, and I'll update mid-Jan when I know the final outcome. Update. So my birthday was the 11th of January. My parents were seeming nicer than usual the entire week beforehand, which might have been because they had time off work or they had a surprise. The outcome was somewhere in the middle of what I was expecting, though. On my birthday, they told me that they were sorry for buying my sister a car for Christmas when I deserved one and really needed it more than her. So they told me that they'd given me $10 K to be able to afford something I'd really like and enjoy taking care of, and also to drive to and from work to school/uni and everything else. The outcome couldn't have really been much better than this one, especially since they originally said they'd help with $5K toward the car I want, so I'm pretty happy with it. Not going to complain anymore about the situation. I just hope they stop the favoritism and obvious extra love and support they give to my sister all the time. Thanks for all support on the original post. Like we're around 7.7K upvotes as of now, which is pretty good. And thanks for all the messages with advice on it.